Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be The Flash Season 6 Episode 14 video. Wally West is back. There were a whole bunch of Easter eggs, including some other big characters that came back and some big comic book twists. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing a Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your biggest theory about what's going on with Reverse Flash in the Speed Force. Careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, obviously we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. And there were a lot of Easter eggs. Starting with number 10, welcome back Wally West. So they give him the cold open, the entire cold open, to kind of show you how he's changed since the last time we saw him a couple seasons ago. It has been a hot minute since Wally West has been on the show. They introduced the rich couple that are on their way to Santa Prisa, which is a comic book location. They referenced it when Cisco was making his map right after Crisis on Infinite Earths. He's like, this is what Earth Prime looks like. All these different comic book places that used to be on different Earths are now on the same Earth. You see Wally use the Speed Force in slightly different ways than you've seen Barry or any other speedster use it. It's a big comic book Easter egg for Zen Wally West from the Mark Waid comics. So that was during the Wally West era after he'd become the main version of the Flash, after comic book Crisis on Infinite Earths no less. So Wally being super zen, talking about Buddhism, all these lessons that he's learned, that's just them combining a lot of things from the Wally West era of the comics with this version of Wally West. So number 9, Wally West's new Zen Speed Force connection. He also talks to Barry during the episode about how he connects to the Speed Force very literally. He says that it's not like him speaking to an aspect of his mother the way that Barry does, speaking to an aspect of a Speed Force wormhole alien that just chooses to look like his mother to make him feel more comfortable. Wally just hears a voice in his head. It also shows him potential futures because remember, the Speed Force exists outside of space-time. Later in the episode, he says that he saw potential futures with his children from the comics, so Wally West in the comics eventually gets married to Linda Park. They have twins, just like Barry and Iris eventually have twins in the comics. I guess twins just run in the Flash family. He also says that he saw a future version of Nora become the main version of the Flash in the future. Now keep in mind that this was before Crisis on Infinite Earths, because Wally said lately things have been off and they kind of explore that through the course of the episode. But it is really cool to see him use Speed Force constructs to create those flowers, so eventually at some point Barry will probably learn to do a version of that in a slightly different way. All this will make sense when they pay off the Death of the Speed Force arc, because the title of the episode is literally The Death of the Speed Force, which is a big comic book arc that they just did in the Flash Rebirth comics. Number 8, Cisco comes back too, referencing Aquaman in Atlantis. So apparently Aquaman is now on Earth Prime too. It makes sense if they're combining all the Justice League characters under Earth 1. You have a version of Batman that at least used to be around on Earth 1. There's a version of Superman that we know now. We still need to find out where Wonder Woman is hanging out, because if we have pretty much the entire Justice League, we know that there's a Themyscira that they visited on the show before on Legends of Tomorrow. We just never actually seen a version of Wonder Woman on the TV show. Linda Carter has guest starred on Supergirl, but she wasn't playing a version of Wonder Woman. She was playing a different character. He's wearing that hat, so they make a Crocodile Dundee joke. Then number 7, we meet the new version of the Turtle, Turtle 2.0, which is this character. So they actually visualize her powers in a slightly more comic booky way, which I think is actually pretty cool. They might actually be getting into the quote-unquote forces from the comics too, because the Death of the Speed Force comic book arc also gets into the different forces that the Flash family learns about. So the Speed Force, the negative Speed Force are just two different of many different forces. There's the Still Force, which is what the Turtle uses to stop time. It's basically his inertia-based powers. They bring back the Velocity X from earlier this season. They've refined a version of Velocity 9 into Velocity X that's a little bit safer, I guess, but still pretty dangerous. But it's also going to come in handy next week when they deal with the new version of the Speed Force that Team Flash is going to try and create. So I'll address that when I do a trailer video tomorrow. But then number 6, WTF, you have Wally West versus Barry Allen. Wally finally confronts Barry over all the crap that he pulled and all the stuff that's happened since Crisis on Infinite Earths. This is your fault, Barry. They really have it out during the episode. But it just reminds you of Flashpoint and all the Flashpoint memes that everyone was posting during Flash Season 3. Like, oh, that sure does look like a good timeline. Be a shame if someone messed it up. So because Wally won't take Barry back into the Speed Force just because he's pissed at him, number 5, Barry uses Reverse Flash's Tachyon enhancer that he helped him design to enter the Speed Force again. And just as he's doing that, they start setting up the Nash Wells Reverse Flash twist. So it felt like the way they transitioned between these different storylines was actually really good, because Wally says you're going to have to go find someone else to teach you how to get back into the Speed Force. They transition right to Nash Wells getting attacked by a version of Reverse Flash in his mind space. Then immediately after, Barry hooking himself into something that the Reverse Flash helped him design. So obviously Reverse Flash is going to be a big part of how Barry fixes the Speed Force. But when he goes back into the Speed Force, he learns what really happened. It's all this green lightning is based on the Spectre's energy, or at least they believe it is now. No one has told them anything different, so Barry's just going to go on believing that it's all his fault because of what he did during Crisis. In number 4 WTF, Barry has to watch his mother die again for I think the third or at least fourth time on the show. He's watched his mother die several times. While this is happening, Wally West is getting one of the classic Joe West pep talks, just saying that you need to think about it from Barry's perspective. He's going to kill himself over this, trying to fix everything. So eventually Wally comes back around on it by the end of the episode and doesn't blame Barry quite as much. As much as you want to make fun of Barry for messing things up, because he's usually the person that causes as many problems as he solves. The way the writers are giving him an out is they're saying that he did this with the Spectre's energy as a measure of last resort. You were trying to save the multiverse. It was the only way. It's just them trying to make Barry seem like he's not a total idiot for what he did. And while this is all happening, it culminates in number 3, Welcome Back Reverse Flash. Cisco goes to see Nash Wells to apologize to him, but by that time, Reverse Flash has already taken over his mind. However, they're going to explain him existing within Nash's mind space. He's effectively taken over his body, but we learn that because he's in Nash's body, he doesn't have his connection to the negative Speed Force anymore, or at least yet. I'm sure he'll find a way to reconnect that, because it seems like in the trailer footage for next week's episode, he is in his Reverse Flash costume. But it just confirms my theory about what they were setting up in the previous episodes. It just seemed like they were setting up the twist that it was going to be Nash Wells becoming Reverse Flash, like he was trapped inside his mind, but it's more like Reverse Flash's consciousness was trapped or connected to Wells somehow because of what they did during Crisis. So that also means that other versions of Wells are probably trapped inside his mind space because he saw the other versions of Wells speaking to him like Sherlock Wells. I really like it when they get into crazy Speed Force mythology, Flash mythology, so I think the next couple of episodes are going to be Reverse Flash heavy as they try to mess with the Speed Force. I'm really excited about that. But number 2, Wally West and Barry versus the Turtle. So they do another version of them running together, except this time Wally knows how to phase, so they can both phase through the building. It's just a callback to their race a couple seasons ago during season 3 when Wally just became Kid Flash, didn't know how to phase yet, so they were racing down the street and Wally had to run over the building while Barry phased through and beat him. This time they phase through, they're able to eventually defeat the Turtle, but not before Wally gets trapped in one of those inertia bubbles. They're able to disable her powers using the Velocity X formula that they reverse engineered. And then after this, we probably get one of our most WTF Reverse Flash pipeline scenes we've ever gotten. Now normally he's pretty vicious when he's talking to Barry about what he wants to do. I want to kill you, same thing I always want to do. But this time he just lays it on so thick. I was like, wow, they were really making Reverse Flash seem like a psychopath, way more than he's ever been in the past. I think that's maybe because the amount of episodes that he'll be around for will be relatively limited. It might not be the entire rest of the season because Godspeed is coming along later this season. But Reverse Flash knows about what happened to the Speed Force because as a speedster, he can sense that the Speed Force is dying. I love the way he calls it your puny Speed Force. That's why I made my own, referring to the negative Speed Force, which also gives Barry the idea at the post-credits scene. So number 1 WTF, Team Flash is going to try and make their own Speed Force like Reverse Flash, reverse engineering the negative Speed Force. What could possibly go wrong? And while all this is going on, the fake version of Iris totally takes out Camilla using the mirror gun, but the mirror gun is just sending Camilla into the mirror dimension, so she'll probably show up inside the mirror dimension with the real version of Iris pretty soon. And I almost forgot to talk about the Black Flash. So one of the big parts of the comic book Death of the Speed Force arc with the different forces is the Black Flash. The Black Flash always acts to protect the Speed Force, so even though they'll probably change it for the TV show, we might see the Black Flash come back as Barry tries to mess with his own Speed Force. Obviously, he's not quite as advanced in his science as the Reverse Flash is. They'll probably derp super hard, so hopefully that'll be a good story to slot in Black Flash to come back for, because it's been a while since we've seen that character, and they're going very heavy on Speed Force mythology the back half of the season, so it makes sense that would justify them bringing back Black Flash at some point. So everyone, let me know in the comments if you spotted any big Flash Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, but there's going to be some big Speed Force Flash mythology stuff happening in the next couple of episodes. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I'll do a trailer video for all that stuff tomorrow. Let me know if there's any special bonus videos or if there's any big questions you have about the stuff that they're setting up or the comic book stuff that they're referencing with the different quote-unquote forces. But everyone, click here for that brand new teaser trailer for The Boys Season 2 with the Stormfront character, and click here for that brand new Black Widow trailer. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.